now. This is a very weird format.
I know, it's really weird, isn't it? It's like you go from being in person and you're like, I'm going to do it on Discord, and then you're like, oh, this is completely, it's not the
just
same.
that, like, I've got my computer in front of me, so I've got to be careful not to, like, get distracted, and yeah, it's different. It's like working from home for the first time. You got to get used to it.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel like I had to have my fizzy drink in front of me here, and if I didn't have my fizzy drink in front of me, then I just had snacks to the side of me there, and and I was like, oh, I can't have that in front of me, because if I do that, then I'm gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna be snacking on film, and we can't have that really. So anyway, I think you psyched up. I'm psyched up.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. All right, ladies and gentlemen.
There we go.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Board Game Gateway podcast, a podcast that is your entry point into the board game hobby world, this fun place that we currently reside, and we'd like to welcome you into it. I keep changing up this motif every recording session. I don't know what'll stick. I think you guys just give me enough crap every time.
Sorry, just keep doing it, and something will land well, and it'll be a little bit of fun anyway.
Maybe it'll be like 50 podcasts in, and it'll never still be the same, and maybe that'll be the bit. Who knows?
Maybe that's the reason people tune in. Keep the surprise, yeah.
Maybe that is the reason why people tune in. And if you are tuning in, you will have probably noticed that... hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Neeber, and joining me tonight is Mr. Ralph. Welcome.
Hello, thank you.
We are Mattless and Blaykeless tonight. They are both... Blayke is currently... He's just moved into a new house and doesn't have his computer set up. And Matt's partner is dealing with the spicy cough. So we decided, like, let's be safe and not get each other around the around the table. But we thought that we'd still record the podcast anyway. So if Blayke and Matt are listening, you're letting the team down. Okay? We expect better. But also, as well, we are recording this over Discord, so you will hear a bit of difference in audio quality. That's okay. And that's why Ralph and I, we still wanted to get together and do this, though. Ralph, but how you been, mate? How's we didn't record last week, but how's everything going?
Yeah, everything's going well. Didn't get to play as many board games as I'd like in the last 2 weeks, but I actually went away with some family. We did a weekend trip through to the Blue Mountains, which is a lovely little escape in Sydney, and it rained pretty much the entire time. So during that last weekend, we actually did play a few board games. So that was actually pretty cool, unexpected. Yeah. And the hotel actually had a very large list of Gateway games on offer that they would deliver to your hotel room. So that was actually really cool.
Wow.
Yeah, legit. Yeah.
Wow. That's the first I've heard of a hotel doing that in Sydney or in Australia. Maybe it's bigger somewhere else.
Yeah, it's probably it wasn't anything too great, like new age. It like the latest game was chess.
All right, okay.
Yeah, but it was actually really cool. Like we still played Guess Who and like just a lot of those older type games, and we're able to do that with our nephews. And that was just a lot of fun.
Oh man, I love a good game of chess. That's probably the game that I play on my mobile phone the most. And even whilst I'm on my computer, I literally will just whip up chess.com and I'll start playing games. I'm not great. I'm only like a 600 rating or something like that. But I like that. There is something to be said about actually just being able to play a good game of chess, but then starting to understand it on a different level. But
yeah, I think the fact that you have a rating actually speaks volumes as to how good you are at chess, because like I'd need a very significant handicap, I think.
Well, the thing about the rating is that I've listened to the guys who are like the grandmasters, right? They're the guys who, this is their bread and butter, and they basically say that a 600 rating compared to like these dudes is complete trash. But 600 rating compared to Joe Blow, who just knows the rule of chess, is like you would just trounce them. Like you're at the but I'm never going to be putting in I'm not going to put the effort in to just learn chess. Like I like it, but I don't have the time, or the patience to go why these moves are better than each other. But look.
So my brother's actually a bit of a video game developer in his spare time. So
wow.
he's made a few different chess-like games because they're fairly simple to code in comparison to other mobile games. So I love showing him board games that are like chess-like games, things like War Chess, and I think Onitama, things like that are just like change the way you think. Things like Can as well, which I'd love to feature on an episode someday. yeah, so that's just another thing that I really enjoy doing is showing my brother chess-like board games.
Yeah, it's really interesting because chess is actually a war game, but it's an
Mm,
abstract war game. Like it is literally just you versus another person. Your pieces will kill the other pieces, and then you've got to capture your opponent's king. That's the whole game. It's a war game in a nutshell, just
yeah,
on a 64 space board, and that's kind of it. And it's really surreal that how like when you start to actually think of chess as a war game, how that game really changes your perspective of like, oh, I'm pressuring this flank or I'm pushing that side, and I don't know, it's like yeah, it's really good. And look, we got into I don't know. It's just really interesting to hear you talk about that. Your brother is a video game developer. That's something I didn't actually know, and it's actually really.
that's in his spare time. So he has published a bunch of things in the app stores. He's got I think a couple hundred downloads. Nothing too like groundbreaking, but there's a lot of work that goes into it because he
He's
does all
developed
the
more
art
games than
design
I ever
himself.
have.
And... yeah, so it's actually a really interesting hobby of his.
Yeah, that's. I mean, look, as a hobby, he's developed more games than I have. So what can we say there? But yeah. So did you play any other games other than chess whilst you're up there in Blue Mountains?
Yeah, we played a game. We played a lot of games of Fugitive, which I'll be talking about later in this episode. But essentially, it's a two-player card game. So
Let's talk about
my
it now.
wife and I just let's just dive into it.
Let's talk about it now.
Yeah, so like I said, we had a few hours to kill on holiday, so I brought Fugitive along with me, which is a very simple two-player card game where one person is a fugitive or a thief, and the other player is the marshal or the cop, and they have to try and catch the fugitive. So it's a bit of game of cat and mouse, and this game is quite popular. It got released in 2017. It's been reviewed 1,000 times online, but I love a good two-player card game. So any game that's very good on card play, and so one player essentially who's the fugitive, they play cards quite often, and they're playing cards in an effort to run away from the cop. And the cop is essentially just sitting back in a chair, has a little basically it's a little whiteboard in front of them, and they're basically crossing off and keeping their notes. So one player just sort of sits back, has a guess as to where the fugitive is, and then the fugitive basically just says, "No, I was never there," or "Yes, you are correct in your guess." So it's a bit of a guessing game and a deduction game for the marshal, and it's quite thrilling for the fugitive because they have a few options as to how to run away from the cop. So it's a very simple game. It's just very big on card play. Um, it's quite important that the fugitive, the person playing the cards, follows the rules to a T. Because essentially what they do, they play a number on the cards. The cards are all numbered. So let's say the card is 16. The following card that the fugitive can play, they have to play within a range of 3 of the previous card.
Mm-hmm.
So from 16, it can go. The next card could be up to 19. And the cop has to guess which card they played, essentially. But the fugitive has a trick up their sleeve where they can sprint, which means they can play cards underneath to kind of get a jump ahead with the following card. So if they play one card underneath, and then instead of the 19 being the highest number, it could potentially be 21. It really depends on how the cards work, and they have to follow some rules. So there was a few times my wife got the rules wrong, and I was the cop trying to catch her, and I was left scratching my head. And I'm like, I had to question her: is this a legal move? Are you sure you're doing the right thing? So when you're playing that at 1 in the morning, you kind of left scratching your own head quite a few times.
You are keen to try and play a fugitive at 1 a.m. with Tina. I tell you what, mate, that's that's trying to play a deduction game. Yeah, and so you kind of touched on it, and I really like the Fugitive. It's one of my favorite two-player asynchronous sort of games. So for the people, if you've never played the Fugitive, you start off at the number 1, and you have to get to the number 36, I believe it is, like 30,
42.
42. It is 42.
Yeah.
And it's so basically you're right. You play a card, and then the fugitive at the start of the game gets to place. There they are. He's, for those of you who are maybe watching it, you can see these cards, and but you play your first two cards before the marshal has a guess, and the marshal can guess. I believe can only guess one card a turn. I believe
they can actually so the safest bet is to guess one card a turn. However, they can guess as many cards as they want per turn.
That's right.
But if any one of them is incorrect,
That's
the
right.
fugitive just says, no, you're wrong, I was never there. So you
That's
could
right.
in fact be getting correct guesses, but you're one card off and it just ruins your whole turn.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's not just a game of guessing blindly, because at the start of your turn, the cop will draw a card, and that way you know that, oh, they were never at that particular location. I can
That's
cross
right.
that off the list. So you're getting clues all the time to help you and potentially cut off where the fugitive can run to.
That's right, and there's the three districts, or the three like, between 1 and 15,
Yeah.
and 16 and 25, or what it is in the last one. And yeah, that's right, and I really love it, because, and you mentioned the sprint mechanic, how you can place like cards underneath to increase the amount of number that you can spread. But what I love about the sprint mechanic is it just increases the range. So the bluffing can be, hey, I am going on number 16, as you said, and now I can play up to 19. But I've now put my sprint card under there, and now I have 6 cards, like a range of 6, but I actually went to 17. But then the marshal's like, well, if they went to 23, that means they could get to this one, the next, but, and you just playing. I really love it. Like, me and my wife, we've played this game many, many times, and the first new players, if they're new to game, you get them to start as the marshal, pretty simply, because then they can see, hey, you can guess. It is a bit complicated, but it gets them into the game. But as soon as you give them the fugitive, all of a sudden this game starts to open up, because they're like, oh, and then their brain clicks, because they go, oh, wait a minute, but that's not oh, and then it starts clicking, and they realize. But then the tension of the last act of this game, which is that this game can actually end very quickly if your marshal gets a series of really either lucky guesses or big guesses. And as you said, like, if you can guess 3 cards in one guess, but if any one of those 3 cards is wrong, sorry, kaput, you've just lost your entire turn.
And
But
that's what makes this game like really tense, and you always have that thing of, if you're the fugitive, like, can I get away with it? And if you do a lot of sprints, you may have a turn where you don't even have an eligible move, because you don't have a card that's within 3 of your
yes,
previous card. So you could be stuck at this particular location, and the cop still gets clues, and the cop still guesses to catch you. So it's a really tense game of cat and mouse.
if I remember correctly, does the fugitive has an opportunity to draw like 3 cards or something like that in one turn
So
if they have no eligible cards?
no. So at the start of the game, the fugitive draws 3 cards from the first deck, being
That's right.
locations 4 to 14 from memory.
Yeah,
And then they also draw 2 cards from the middle deck, which is the mid range of the
that's right. So
locations.
they've given
So
themselves
that
a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, so that gives them a head start, to actually start running away. So that way, they most of the time they get a bit of leeway. But I used to play this with my cousin quite a bit, and he will always go for the double guess first go, because your first go as fugitive is you play 2 cards, and my cousin will always go 1 and 3, and most of the time he will get it, or he'll do a guess of that nature, and most of the time he will get it. So the game's over before it even starts.
Yeah, I mean, that's the sort of the game. This game can make you feel really smart as well. And that's right, because the fugitive gets to draw a card every turn, but they get to choose which pile they want to draw from. So as they're
Yeah.
getting closer to the second district, they'll want to probably draw more cards from District 2 so that they have more options. But if they start drawing from District 2, then the marshal can start drawing cards from pile 3, and then really limit your options. And that's what makes this game really fun. I really like the fugitive. I think it's a great design. It's been out. It's 5 years old now, but honestly, I don't know really any other sort of 2-player card game that has this sort of this kind of competitive, like asynchronicity, if you will. Like, I know there are games like Seven Wonders Duel and stuff that have got that competitive edge, but I mean, like, this whole idea of, like, it's just quite simply it's almost like a push your luck thing as the marshal. And also, one of my favorite mechanics of this game, though, is you as the fugitive, if the marshal has not guessed past a certain number as you get away. So you've played really well. The marshal's been doing a lot of information gathering, and you've gotten to 42. I think it's before the marshal gets to 26 or something like that, some random guess. The marshal gets a chance to just guess every single card in the line of cards. So you're playing like from left to right. And then the marshal just goes, right, I've had a really terrible game of trying to guess your cards, but now I've got some crucial pieces of information. That card is 24. Yes. And then you just keep guessing. And the tension that comes from, the tension that comes from, you're sitting there as the fugitive going, please, 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 please. Like, I've hoped they've missed something. But, like, there have been times when my wife has gotten 5-card guesses, bang, one right after the other, and just caught me as I'm getting on the plane to leave. Because she's like, nope, I've got the whole line. I love that final one.
If they've got the clues that are like towards the back half of the game, that could really help. And a lot of times it comes down to a lot of 50-50 guesses, and it feels so good as the marshal when you get that right. So yeah, it's a fantastic game. And what's also really cool is I've actually never used it, but there are a lot of event cards in the game that don't really change up the game too much, but they add a bit of spice to the game.
I don't think I've played with events either,
Yeah, things like you can wear a disguise and like little things happen, and if it depends on who gets the event, if it's the cop or the fugitive, they behave a bit differently. And there's a large number of these in the game. I've never used them. I've had this game for like 4 years now, and played it a bunch. Never felt the need for it. So
yeah, me neither.
You know, the fact is the replayability is definitely there. Let alone just swapping, because it really does just take 5 minutes to teach someone, and that literally that 5 minutes for them to get their head around how it works, and then you can just have a blast of an afternoon.
Yeah, and we like to play it as a bit of like a best of 3, best of 5 sort of thing, you know. And you're right, like I haven't played with the event cards either. It's honestly that solid of a deduction puzzle that you don't feel like you need it. You don't feel like it really needs the spice. Although it could be fine, but I really don't think it needs it in any way, shape, or form. To be frankly honest.
Yeah, definitely. Highly recommend you give this a go. Really, it's a cheap little game. I think it only costs like $40 from memory. But yeah, highly recommend Fugitive.
40 Australian dollary dues for a box that's about the size of like a kind of stock standard Goosebumps book. And if you get that reference, you are well and truly our friend. But yeah, I agree. I also, speaking of games that we've been playing with our partners, I wanted to kind of transition into another one that I wanted to speak to, which is this week is the Isle of Cats, which is a relatively newer one. I mean, it's only 2 years newer. It's a 2019 release from Kickstarter. Designed by Frank West, who did the art, and he did it on Kickstarter. But I've only just recently picked it up for a couple of reasons. I was looking for a version of a Tetromino sort of style placing game, and I hear the commenters going, Neeber, what about Patchwork? And my answer is I have Patchwork, except the version of Patchwork that I currently have doesn't have the Tetrominos cut in a good way. So there was like, before they really started using like laser cutting and like the laser cutter to really to knock out all these cardboard, so the bits don't fit in each other correctly. So if you're building like a Tetris style puzzle and you have like a T that you want to go inside of a part and they don't click together, it is literally the most frustrating thing that I have found in a board game at any point. It literally is. I love Patchwork and I love the game, but literally my wife does not want to play it because she cannot put the pieces snapping together without feeling like she's about to destroy her board, and that was causing a rift with her and board game because she really wanted something.
We'll have to get you a proper copy of Patchwork. I think it's a fantastic little game as well.
Oh, I love it. It's still on my shelf. I cannot get her to play it whilst that's happening. So I've been looking at Isle of Cats for a few months, and I've seen a lot of positive reviews on it, and I decided to pull the plug, and we bought it, and we played it for a few games. Actually, we played it for 3 games, and I have to admit, it is a very surprising package. Like, it's a big box, but I was not expecting what I got in that box. I was expecting cats on a ship, but I wasn't expecting a intricate card drafting puzzle that came along with it. So for those of you who haven't played Isle of Cats, we'll explain how this game kind of works. So you each have a ship, and on that ship, it's separated into 7 different rooms, and what you're doing is the theme of the game is we're going to an island and we're saving a whole bunch of these, Grand Pacific legendary cats, right? So there are 5 different colors of cats. We're bringing them onto our ship, and we're basically trying to cover up as many spaces as possible, and in doing so, trying to combo different things, and also bringing treasure along with us. Okay, so that's kind of the gist of the game. But where this game really takes a really interesting turn for me is that there's a phase before you. There's split into 5 different phases. The first phase is essentially putting cats out on the island that we're going to save. The second phase is then we bid. We do a card draft. And so for card drafting, if you never know what card drafting is, basically I have a hand of 7 cards, and so does Ralph. We both pick one, and then I hand my remaining one to Ralph, and he passes it back to me. And then I pick one from that hand, pass it back to him, rinse and repeat until we've both picked 7 cards, and then that's our hand of what we want to keep. And from those 7 cards that we have, we are looking for things such as boots to kind of see who wants to go first. But essentially, you need to have good boots to catch cats. If we're going to herd some cats, you've got to have your boots on, otherwise they'll be scratching your ankles. We need to have baskets to catch the cats. So how many cats can we actually take from the island? So we need to get baskets. But then there's also cards that allow you to do things such as put global rules into place. There are cards that allow you to put individual rules, and those rules are like point scoring rules and things like that, as well as like one-off power cards, like, hey, grab some treasure, grab some really rare treasure, grab the special wild cats, grab one of those, whatever. And that, when you do the drafting, then we pick what cards we want to play in similar sort of drafting card fashion. Each card has a cost, and that cost you pay for out of your income from usually 20 coins at the beginning of every turn. And then once you then play the cards, rinse and repeat, and that card could be, hey, I'm going to go grab a cat, and I'm going to grab a cat from this side of the island. It's cheaper than that side of the island. And then we fill them out on the boards, and then you're trying to combo things. So there's, like, if I put a green cat over the green magic scroll, well, congratulations, you now get to go and get a special piece of another cat, and put him on the thing, right? And so there's a whole bunch of these little puzzles going on where it's like, it's not just pick cat, put cat on boat. You're actually going, how many cats can I actually afford to put on my boat? And how many points can I score if I were to take this point card instead? So my Georgie, she destroyed me in game number 2, right? We went about 40 points to 35 points. She won in the first game. She was like, congratulations. I'm like, I think I can do better. We go to game number 2. She gets 85 points and I get like 65 points. She just obliterated me. And because she was like, well, I filled out my cats, but I picked the point cards that allow me to go, well, if I have 5 green cats on my ship, I immediately get 10 points. If I have more, cats on the edge of my boat, well, obviously I'm going to get more points for that, right? And the game itself, I know, it really shocked me at how much depth there was in this game versus how accessible this game was, because the artwork is very good, and it was really, really good. It plays at 2 to 4 players. There is an expansion that allows you to play at 5 to 6, which I am now very tempted to get just because I think the game is worth it. But after my first plays, I've got to admit, this game it's shot into the top of one of my wife's favorite games.
So if I understand correctly, you have a card, like you have a deck of cards in your hands. You play the card and you grab the tile, like that corresponds to the card.
Yeah, so like for example, the card. So you have cards that have baskets and boots on there. And some of the baskets are full baskets, some are broken, so you need 2 broken baskets to make a full basket, because of course you do, because no baskets are dead in the world. And on some of them just have boots only, so and so for example, the total boot speed would be 7, and then my one was 6. Quite often I was 1 less than my wife's speed. Quite often. So she would go first. So what she could do is, the cards that she chose to keep, one of those cards could be a basket card. So she could play the basket card down now in front of her and literally say, or say, that basket card that I played in front of me for the speed value, I'm going to use that basket now, and I would like that basket to go and grab that cat. And then she picks one of the cats. So when part of the first phase of the game is we actually bring out 2 cats per player onto either side of the island. So there's a cheap side and an expensive side, a 3 and a 5. Now, it's just random which cats go onto which sides of that island. But so there would be 4 cats on the 3 side and 4 cats on the 5 side. So as first pick, she can go, I'm going to go and I'm going to grab that cat specifically because there's a red cross piece on the 3 side and I really need that red cat. And so she'll do that. And that's how you get it. But the big thing, and which I kind of haven't alluded to yet, but the big thing about, well, you're just going, well, what's stopping me from putting cats anywhere on the board? The rule about putting cats on your board, your ship, is the first cat can go anywhere. Any other cat must be connected to that first cat or to any of your cats currently on the board. And why that's important is because I mentioned at the very start there are 7 different rooms. You get -1 point or -2 points for, -5 points for every room that is not completely covered by cats. Right? So you're literally going, well, I need to actually cover these rooms, but towards the end of the game, you're not going to get them all covered. So you're going, well, where do I put my cats to get the least amount of negative points? But then on top of that, in similar sort of board game style, the more cats of one color or family, as they're known, I put together, I'm going to get exponential points for that. So if I've got 6 red cats all touching each other, that's really, really good. So you're kind of trying to figure out, well, I need to put a red cat here so I can cover this room and also increase my red family to 5, which is monster points. So you kind of like, we have this balancing act of putting cats in the right place, but also trying to find, then also going, well, I don't have the right cat, but I need to try and mitigate what's going on here. And it is so very accessible because the administration in this game, I felt like I could take care of most of that. And then as soon as the game started cranking along, things just, my wife was like, oh yeah, okay, cool. 20 income for both of us, put the cats out, bang, dealing out cards. All right, go, phase 3. We're in. And I have to admit, as I said, again, I have to reiterate, this really shocked me at how accessible it was, at how big this box is, because it could be very intimidating if you're not new to this. If you're new to this,
I love games that are like this one. This sounds like a gateway game to me, and it actually, like you said, Anth, there's a lot of depth here. So I love games that are simple to teach, but actually have a lot of depth in there with the combos you can pull off. So like a gamer such as ourselves, we can really enjoy these types of games, but also they're so simple that we can show our mum how to play and she could get it like within 10 minutes and just have an enjoyable afternoon with it.
So something that I haven't actually mentioned about Isle of Cats is this is all standard mode. And at standard mode, it basically says this is a 10-player game. 10 plus age, side of game. Plays in 45 minutes to an hour. And I'd say at 2 players, we played it in about 40 minutes. And I don't think it would extrapolate that much more with 4 players. I do think you'd be looking at about probably an hour. Okay, but the game specifically comes with a family mode. They have specifically designed this game so that you can actually strip the rules right back and and they say it's from 7 or 8 years old, you can start playing this game in family mode. And that is also one of the big reasons why I got it, because I was like, this is a game that I potentially could start teaching to my daughter who's 6. I could start teaching this to her either now or in the next couple of years as she starts figuring that out. And I agree. I think it is, to me, it feels like a gateway game. It's not a game that someone who just walks into a shop is probably going to buy. However, it is, I would say, a lightweight medium game, right? It's that kind of game where I probably rated around about a 2.2 out of 5 rating, right? Because it looks more intimidating because it's a big game. It is a big box. For a gateway game. It's a big box. It's a standard thing. But the artwork and the theme is it's cats. We're just playing with kitty cats, and we're putting the cats in fun positions on the boat.
I think it might be simple to teach as well, because you can say, oh, do you remember Tetris, how you put all your tiles in a row, that sort of mechanic? It's just, you've got to cover the board. That's how you do it. And you can explain how you get those tiles. And slowly it will start piecing together because they're not completely foreign concepts to people as well because they've seen it throughout their lifetime.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Absolutely right. The placing of the cats, like, is you say this is we're playing Tetris, and that will get people into that game. You say we're gonna play Tetris on a game, and then you introduce the next things after that, right? We've got the card drafting. The most complex thing is understanding how you can get cats to put them on your boat, and it's not that complicated. But for someone who doesn't play games, it may seem a bit convoluted and complicated. But once they've got that, the game literally becomes, well, do you want the cat? I think I want to play this card. Yes, but if you play that card, Ralph's going to take that cat away from you, potentially. And they're like, oh, no, but I want that cat. But if I don't... And so then they start to find it. So I agree. I think this is a lightweight game. I think this is... It really... It's got a place in my collection now. Like, it was one of those games where I feel like, yes, it's going to be here for a long time. And I'm actually looking forward to playing it again. I really enjoyed my time with it for this past week. We cracked open a bottle of wine. We played the game. And we spent a good 2 hours playing this game. And we honestly could have gone more. So if you're looking for... Oh, yeah, you go.
When are you purchasing your first cat is what I want to know.
Oh, look, I came from a family where at one point we had 4 cats, and I just adopted my first dog. So,
we gotta find a dog game then.
Yeah, exactly right. We'll have to find a dog game, but no cats for me anytime soon. Specifically, just because he isn't a bit of a side from board games, but he is a rescue pup. He's 5 years old, so want to make sure that he's comfortable and make sure that he doesn't chase any cats around the place. So. Anyway, but that was Isle of Cats by Frank West. And look, I also want to point out, I mean, we also have one other game that I'd like to, specifically talk about today. And this may bring us into a discussion point / something, but I want to talk about Dominion as our gateway game of the week. And the reason why I want to talk about that is we talked about it last week in the last episode. But it actually brought up some interesting things. So over the past 2 weeks, we took a week off, I introduced it to Matt, and I also introduced it to Blayke. When I introduced it to Blayke, I introduced it to my brother Nick as well, who we play games with, but he's not on the podcast. And I want to talk about Dominion as the granddaddy of deck builders. But I also want to talk about something that came out of it. So, Ralph, you've played Dominion, haven't you? Or at least played the base.
That's one of the base games that I kind of skipped, but I have seen it played, and I've played the Steam version. There's got a video game adaptation of it, and it does look pretty good. So, please go on.
if you've played the digital version, you've pretty much played the game. It's the exact same. We played this all on Tabletop Simulator, even though I do own the base copy. It is a Spiel des Jahres winner from 2009, I believe. So it's 13, 14 years old now. It's a granddaddy, and it is considered what is basically the grandfather of the deck building genre. For those of you who don't know, deck building is a concept of, rather than me giving you a finished deck of 52 cards and saying, make something of this, I'm going to give you 10 cards, 7 of which are money, and 3 of which are points. And now I've got a shop of 10 cards in front of me, and those cards do things. And you're going to have to use the money in your hand, the money in your deck, and to buy more cards, and then you will shuffle those cards into your deck, and then you will play them as you go. So the way that Dominion works is it's a victory point game. So you can buy one of these 10 different action cards, or you can buy these point cards or more money to add to your deck. And so the way that it works is that, hey, I draw 5 cards to my hand. I then get to play one action, and then I play as many coins from my hand as I can. I can then buy one card. I then add that card to my discard pile. I discard all the cards that I played as well as my hand, and then I draw 5 more cards. Rinse and repeat. Once I have no more cards to draw, I then shuffle all the cards that I have, put them back to the side, and then draw 5 more cards. So you can start to see, well, okay, so now when I shuffle my cards the first time, I potentially have bought 2 more cards that are now on my deck that could come out. And those cards can do things such as give you more actions to play more cards, or can give you more buys to buy more cards quicker. And the game itself is fantastic. Again, I've played this with my wife. She really loves this game. We came out of Sushi Go. That's a really bad comparison. We came out of Sushi Go as a drafting game, and I said to her, "You like collecting cards and doing actions and fun things. Let me introduce you to this game." And I will admit, as simple as it is, it does not look pretty. It's it
No, the
suffers.
cards look very tall and skinny, and the art looks okay, but I haven't seen it in person.
The art is okay, but the art is very 2009 Euro game, right? Brown,
Yeah, yeah.
fantasy, medieval, right? So it's got the smithy,
The
the
village,
village,
the
the
merchant.
market, right? These cards don't evoke much, pizzazz, if you will. But what they do give you is this idea of like you're building essentially a dominion, a kingdom, if you will, and that kingdom is going to do things. So the game itself is very simple because you just basically you say you can play one action card, and those are the actions in front of you. What do you want to do? And then you go.
Mm.
And then, but the cards that you can buy, you can also buy victory point cards. Now, if you know deck builders, you will understand this, but they don't do anything but give you victory points at the end of the game. So that's your win condition, but they clog up your deck because they can't do anything. And you only get to draw 5 cards a turn. Now, you can get other cards to help you draw more, but the statistics behind and the odds of having, well, if I just go points early, then the chance of you drawing those cards to get you the combo to do the thing you want to do goes lower. So the game is basically it's an engine builder, right? You're basically building an engine, hoping that you can then play the cards to siphon through your deck to get things to do the thing you want to do, right? And I love it.
The game's just a big race to what 40 points was it?
It's not a
Um,
race to 40. It's what the game ends when either one of two things happen. Either all of the 5-point victory cards are kaput, they're gone. There's 10 or 8 or 10 of them, depending on how many players are in the game. So if all the 5-point victory cards are gone, game over. You finish up and that's gone. Or either because there's the 10 action cards, each of the decks have 10 of them. If 3 of those piles go empty, the game ends immediately. So you could theoretically have a strategy that just says, I'm just going to buy a shit ton of cards, and by doing so, I'm gonna do it quicker than these guys can get the gold to buy the victory points, and just cycle in my decks. You got cards that are like, hey, just grab a 4-cost victory card. Oh, a 4-cost card. Okay, thank you. Away we go. And yeah, what happened? I want to tell you this, Ralph. Was that so? We introduced this to Blayke, and I had my brother, and we're playing Dominion. And now I've played it, and I'd said to them, please understand, I'm probably going to be better than you in this particular game because I've played it a lot, okay? And so I understand what's going to happen here. And so my brother played the game where he decided he wanted to try and use the action card, the militia, and that messes with other players. It basically says, hey, instead of 5 cards, you're only allowed to play with 3 cards. Now, he played this game, and he tilted because he was playing it like it was a game that is specifically like, I'm attacking you, and then that's going to affect you. But what ended up happening was he didn't affect me because I countered what he had done by playing the card that I needed, but he then didn't see it as an engine builder. And I think that's what the struggle with Dominion is. Have you ever run into a game like that where people are looking at a game and going, hey, this is a game that this is what you're supposed to do, but they feel like it's something else completely?
Yeah, I haven't had that happen to me off the top of my head, but I have had where people misunderstood a rule, or they looked at a card and they thought that particular card was a dragon, but it turns out it was a creature, and then their entire plan just went out the window. So like little misunderstandings like that. But I understand what you're saying is where you had that protection, and then your friend's plan just completely kaput. He couldn't
Yeah,
do anything.
absolutely right. Yeah, and what ended up happening, it really tilted him because in this game, it is an engine builder, as I said. So you're playing cards. It's like, hey, play this card, get 2 actions, but also draw a card. Oh, sweet. Now I draw an extra card. Oh, play a card that allows me to draw 3 cards. Oh, sweet. I've still got 1 action. I've just drawn 4 extra cards. Oh, I can play another card that allows me to get 2 more actions. And so what ended up happening was my brother he was only playing 1, maybe 2 cards a turn because he was trying to affect me but not get his engine going. And then I came in going, all right, well, I played 8 cards in a turn with 12 coins that I could just buy, and I had basically had no issues. And he realized he didn't like it. And I think he didn't like it, though, specifically because it wasn't what he expected. The game wasn't what he expected it was going to be. It was something completely different. The game is not about messing with each other. It's about, can I make a better engine than you before you make your engine? That's what the game is.
Yeah, that's why I was saying before. I feel like it's a bit of a race to get your engine working and be in line with the other people you're playing with. Because the first time I played this game, I wouldn't say I had a miserable time, but I just didn't really fully understand how it worked. There's not a lot of games I play. I love card games, but there's not a lot of games where you play your whole hand in the turn and then just you get the stuff or you get to buy something. So that mechanic just took me a little bit to get used to. I've since played similar games where you do play your whole hand and you do the best with what you've got. But I really like it because in Dominion, you're just building that engine. So you're buying the card that you think is going to work, and you're excited to get that shuffle back into your deck so you can actually see it in action and just buy better cards. So it's constantly, you're getting that dopamine here as you're just constantly trying to improve your engine, getting that extra card in. Maybe have a turn where you buy 2 cards and you see that sort of pays off, and it's just really exciting. And the turns are really quick around the table. Everyone's just having a good time and just
Yep.
constantly snapping things up and getting new toys to play with. So it's all a pretty exciting 20 minutes.
Yeah, it is. And look, it's a great two-player game. I think it plays really good at 3. 4 is just on the cusp of too many because the downtime between your turns is, especially, it can feel like it's too long based on what's actually going on. But I do think that I would recommend Dominion to anyone. I do think it's simple enough for anyone to play, and I do think it makes you feel smart, and it makes you feel great when your engine kicks off. When it starts chugging along, you're like, oh, I get to play this, and it gets me 3 more cards, and then I can also purchase this, which allows me to get that, and now I've got 7 coins, so I get 5 in bang, right? It makes you feel phenomenal. But people need to go into this game knowing what it is. It is not a Yu-Gi-Oh! Pokemon, Magic the Gathering, me versus you battle. It is a who can mitigate their luck the best and who can get their engine chugging along. Because once you get chugging, there's times where my brother was like, well, I'm done. I can't. I'm not going to get back into this. And he was right. He was out. He was not going to get back into it. I was too far ahead, and I was gonna win. And that really made him downhearted. He didn't want to play the game anymore. He was really sad about it. And that I said to him, look, let's stop playing. It's fine. We don't have to keep playing this game. And that made me feel a little bad about it because I didn't want him to feel like he was doing bad. It was just that this really is a game, though, that will reward experience and will reward people who know what the combos are. But if you're willing to put in a couple of games just to kind of experience what combos you can potentially get, I do really believe this is a game that I use my wife as the yardstick for gateway games. And she knows I do it lovingly, but she loves this game. She really enjoys this game, and I have actually taught it to a couple of friends of mine on game nights, and they really enjoyed it too. So I do believe there's a lot here, and I still believe it holds up. I mean, what do you think? Do you reckon, as a 14-year-old, it still holds up? What do you reckon?
I definitely think it still holds up. I haven't played it a lot, but look, it stood the test of time. And me personally, I've got a limited shelf space as to games I actually want to keep. If those watching on video, I swear this is all the games I have.
Well, you've got 2 extra rows below that they can't see as well, but yeah.
No, trust me, that's just paperwork. Yeah. No, look, I love games that have stood the test of time. So when a game typically is just announced on Kickstarter, I'm very like to keep my wallet in my pocket as best I can, just because there's so many games out there that have literally last 20 years and people are still playing and loving today, and Dominion is definitely one of them. I really think 20 years time from now, people will still be talking about Dominion and be happy to pull it out and have a game of it, because it's just that game that's really simple to teach. You can get a game going, and even if you have a bad time with it because someone else's engine was so much better than yours, you know, 5 minutes later you can start a new game with a fresh set of 10 cards on the table and try it again. It really
Mm.
depends on what the vibe is. But just on that as well, like I love a card game, and my wife really likes it too. And we played a game as well, Anth, of Res Arcana. And I'm not going to feature that at the moment, but I just want to bring it up because we've had games of it where I'm miles in the lead, and my wife's like, "Oh, I don't think I can catch up. Let's just concede the victory and we'll start a new game," because
Yeah.
you can definitely tell who's going to win the game halfway through.
Mm.
I'm more than happy to play it out. But if both players can see it, and it's not that, oh, I'm done, I'm over the game, I don't want to play anymore. It's literally, okay, let's reset, let's try it again,
Yeah, and
and you can definitely do that.
that's a great thing about board games as well. I do feel like that is a foreign concept to a lot of people when it comes to board gaming. The idea of like going, hey, I know I'm ahead. Are you enjoying yourself? No.
Yeah,
Let's stop. Oh, I don't know, but no, like if you're not getting enjoyment out of it, let's stop. We don't need to keep going. It's fine. Like, and there's also nothing wrong with saying, you know what, you just. It's like in chess, right? To bring it back to the start, right? There are so many games that I play online where I'm like, no, I'm done. Like I've made mistakes. I'm in a really bad position. I'm not getting back into this game. I'm done, and it's fine to say, you know what, I concede, you win, you bested me on this occasion, and then what do? New game, bang, I'm away again. I'm trying again, and I think you're right. Like there are games of Res Arcana or even Dominion or stuff where I do believe we should be saying, guys, let's just stop. It's like, yeah, and I say this to a lot of my new players as well when I'm starting to play games with them and newer games. I'm saying, look, if you're not enjoying this game, please let me know. My whole purpose of this hobby is for you to have fun and get some enjoyment out of it. And if neither of those two things are happening, then I don't want to continue. As much as I want to play a game, your enjoyment trumps my want to play a game at this point.
100%. And like I do regular game nights and things like that, and I always make other people suggest what we play, because if it's down to me, like, yeah, sure, that's fantastic, but I want to know, what do you want to play? And then we'll just play that, because personally I'm happy to pretty much play any game under the sun. But I want to make sure the people that I'm playing with are having a good time, and sometimes that's not about the game. Sometimes that's just about sitting around the table and having a chat, and sometimes it's doing that as well as laughing as to, oh, you didn't play that card at the right same time as I did, and like, it's just bring up that discussion topics and create those memories, really. And no one wants to sit there sulking for half an hour while you run away with the win. So
Yeah. No, I agree as well. And I guess that comes, like, again, I think as well, this kind of brings up the idea of, though, like, what people also tend to think about when I say, hey, let's come and play a game. Let's do a games night, right? And a lot of people, when I say, I personally believe a lot of people, when they hear, let's have a games night, a lot of people, and we use Monopoly as the example a lot of the time, but a lot of people have memories of losing Monopoly and having to sit around the table until the inevitable winner happens, and they're sitting there going, I'm bored, I'm not winning, I'm out of this game, but I have to keep playing. Oh god, my parents won't let me leave the table because the game's still going. Whereas I really firmly believe now there's a big push where people don't realize, hey, let's have a games night. Is the game is just a vessel to enjoyment. And it's like, hey, and that's the thing. When I'm introducing games, I'll say, hey, what do you guys want to play? I think you do this as well, Ralph. Where it's like, you don't go, do you want to play the Fugitive? You would probably go, do you want to play a game where you're the fugitive and someone's trying to stop you from getting away by guessing cards what that you're playing? Or you can say, hey, let's all pretend. I can see, behind you, you got Azul, for example.
oh yeah,
Like
love
you
Azul.
like, I love Azul too, right? I'm only just really new to Azul. Thank you, Board Game Arena. But the idea of being is like, hey, do you want to just have a nice time, and we're going to make some stained glass windows for a pretty church, and the winner is going to be the person who happens to make the best stained glass windows. People go, how do I make it? And I go, well, let's get the game out, and then you hand them these honestly, I think the Azul tiles are some of the best components in board gaming. You just hand
Yeah, when
people
I
these
when I
really.
first saw them, they were amazing, and they come in a big bag, and they can jiggle, and it's just like, oh, what's in there?
Or when you actually hand them to people and you say, here are some, and they pick them up and they're weighty and they've got texture and they're just, I mean, we talk about it all the time, but tactility and the feeling of board games is such a big thing because people like to play with stuff. They like to hold things. Feel like it's like the whole, the jingly, like the Chinese jingle balls, where like the three of them where you have to like spin them around your hand without making noise. As like, if you're holding like,
Okay, they look like they're levitating in your hand, sort of
yeah,
thing.
that kind of stuff. People
Yeah.
love to hold and play with things, and that's what when you start giving people stuff. It's like another game I can see behind you. Like throw burrito, right? It's a game where like it's a card game where in the middle of it I'm gonna pick up a foam taco cat and just throw it full peg in your face, and
So
it is.
I played that. I played that the other week actually, and the person who was throwing it to me, it hit the wall behind me and fell under the table. And I didn't have a burrito at the time, so I actually just fell under the table, crawled underneath, and hit her in the leg.
That's
I'm like,
fantastic,
what?
right? But that like, and I love those experiences. Like to me, this is what board gaming is. Board gaming, and the reason why I'm so passionate, and why I started this podcast with you and the other boys is like it is these experiences that you don't have. And for me, I mean, when we talk about what do games like, what is enjoyable about games to me, it is they provide a framework, and I'm trying to use technical terms, but they provide a framework for you to do something you don't normally get to do. Throwing a foam pizza cat at a burrito at your friend, right? Like, also, just side note, if you ever play Throw Burrito, put your blinds up because otherwise you're going to have some broken blinds because people will,
Yeah.
especially the girls, when you give girls the chance to throw a burrito, just full peg at you, they're going to do it. It's just every time. They never stop.
No, we had to hide a few things in the house when we decided to play it the other day.
Put the Lego away. Just don't play it near Lego.
They have an inflatable version you can play in a pool where
Oh,
everything's waterproof.
oh,
They're giant burritos. I think they're like a meter tall.
that would be
And
so good.
yeah, I don't have a pool, so the first step is the pool, and then I can get that.
Well, if only someone on this podcast happened to have a
Ah,
house that has a pool, he
yeah, we'll
says as
definitely
he's
have to do
pointing at his own. He
that.
says as he's pointing at his own head, and so thankfully I do have a pool. So maybe we'll actually have to invest in one of those and maybe do a summer special or something like that. But yeah, look, I think again, I just coming back like this is. I mean, Ralph. I mean, what? I mean, for me, I've harped on about shared experiences and this kind of stuff. But I mean, what is it? I mean, we talked about what makes game nights enjoyable. Like, what about the games though themselves? Like, what is it that a game for you that you look at and you go, that is what makes this game like? Why do I find this game
Look,
enjoyable?
again, every game comes down to who you're playing with. You got to know
Mm,
your audience. That's kind
mm,
of the first rule when you're showing people new games that they haven't experienced before.
yep.
But if you can get them in a game, personally, things that make games enjoyable for me on those particular game nights is things where games I like where you don't know who's winning. That's kind of a cool thing because like I'm very big in strategy games and things like that, but as soon as you take out the victory condition where you don't know who's winning, everyone's just a bit more relaxed and just it's kind of that journey game where you're just playing cards or you're having a laugh, you're having a chat, and you're playing the game at the same time. And at the end of the thing, you do the scoring. So things like Seven Wonders, you can kind of have an educated guess as to who's actually winning the game, but the victory points are counted at the end of it in a way.
Mm.
Um, so things like that, I think that's one of the things that makes a game night enjoyable for me, or for just a casual social game night. That is.
Yeah, I agree. I think as well for what makes games enjoyable, I do think everyone will get enjoyment out of different areas of a game. It depends on what they're
Yeah,
searching for. So, like, if I say, "Hey guys, I want to hold a games night, a social games night," well, that's obviously going to be different to say, "Let's go and play let's play Terraforming Mars," right?
yeah, yeah,
Like if I'm playing a game of Terraforming Mars, I'm looking to challenge myself to try and do the best that I can to try and get the best engine to beat my friends in what I like to call the big brain race, right? It's like I want to try and beat you and be better than you in this particular thing. But in a social games night, if I'm playing a game, so like Decrypto or Trap Words, for example, for me, I find a lot of the enjoyment comes out of the fun of like the aha moments. You want people to feel like they're smart. You want people to feel like they made a contribution. I think that's a huge thing for people having fun. You don't want to make that person can like, even if it's only one thing, a person only has to say one thing. Like in a game of Trap Words, they could be like, "Hey guys, they could be quiet for the whole game, and then they just go, I think this is a really good trap word. I think you should put water." And then that other team happens to guess water, and you're like, yes! Like, they only made one contribution that whole game, but it was their contribution, and that they kind of helped to their team winning the round.
I played a game of Codenames with like 6 people, and my brother-in-law wasn't even playing. And he just saw us all staring intently, and he goes, "What are you trying to do?" And I'm like, "We're trying to link this word and that word in one word." And he just got it right there and then. And we used that clue. They got the guess, and he just walked off, felt like a boss. He wasn't even playing the game.
That's the other thing. I love that. I love those things. I love the fact that you can have people around the table. They can come in. They can say, "Hey, what are you doing?" And then just be involved. And I think I think this is, again, as we're coming towards the end of the hour here. I reckon that this is, for me anyway, this is specifically what I look for. It's once you know what the night is, then they're also looking to you as the games master or the host of the evening. They're putting trust in you. Like, hey, I'm coming to you invited me to a games night. I'm actually here to play and spend some time with you guys. They're putting your trust in you, and I do believe that if you give them the ability to contribute, to be open and have a fun time, I really do think there's a lot of enjoyment to be had in those nights.
Definitely. And I've had many nights where people just haven't played any of these games before. I had my cousin and his fiance over a while ago, and they've never played any game aside from Monopoly and Connect 4, and we played Anomia, and it's just a silly game of yelling out words at each other, giving each other clues and things like that. And they had an absolute blast. And then the pressure was on to show them a different game that they will enjoy after that, and I couldn't come up with the goods.
I'm sure. Look, it's the hardest thing in board gaming as the board gaming collector is going like, "Oh, well, what game do you recommend?" And then you're like, "Oh no, what game would you like?" And that's when. Oh yeah, but I think we're gonna start to wrap it up there because it's look, Ralph, I really enjoyed this discussion, but we're coming up to an hour now, and I think we'll save it there for the next podcast. But thank you so much for joining me tonight, and for the first of what will be many potential not for people podcasts, I think, depending on how shift work and stuff goes. Hopefully not too many. I really enjoy. I miss the boys. I miss having the other voices.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully they will get better as well.
I feel like I've spoken too much this episode. Oh, that's okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us this evening this evening. It is the evening now. You could be listening to it in the morning. I don't know. Whenever you're listening to this. Thank you for joining us for the episode number 3 of the Board Game Gateway podcast. You can find us on Facebook at Board Game Gateway. You can also find us on our website, boardgamegateway.com. If you enjoyed what you're listening to, please feel free to subscribe, follow, all that stuff. We'd love to keep you coming back. Search for our Discord community on our website. We're going to be looking at getting you guys in there, maybe playing games. You can even come and chat to us, all that fun stuff. Am I missing anything, Ralph? I don't think I'm missing much.
No, I think you've covered it all. Thanks for joining us, and hopefully we'll see you again in another episode.
I couldn't have said it better myself. See you guys. Thank you very much.
See ya. Thanks.